Hey Rustaceans, this is Will here from the Machine Lovers channel. And in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a simple function in Rust. It's going to be Euclid's algorithm for finding the greatest common divisor for any two given integers. And then I'm going to write tests for it and I'm going to compile it. So this is just a soft introduction to Rust. No presumption here. Let's just see how long it's going to take for us to do some not test-driven development in Rust, but write a function, test it. All right, here we go. So I have a folder in here that just has some odds and ends. I've just been experimenting with some things. So let's just try a file. I'm going to call it prog11.rs. Okay, so this is a Rust file. All right, so now this is a function that I'm going to define. It's going to be called greatest common denominator. And so I'm going to make a mutable variable n that is going to be an unsigned integer. Means it should be, actually it can be negative. If I was just I, then I could only use positive integers. And then let's make another mutable input parameter, also unsigned 64, and this is going to return an unsigned 64. All right, so now what is the meat of the function? Okay, so first we need to use the assert macro that n is not equal to 0, and also that m is not equal to 0. Otherwise, the greatest common denominator is going to be 0. So while, let's use m is not equal to 0, and this is Euclid's algorithm. We're not making this up on the fly. We're just programming this out. It's available on Wikipedia. If m is less than n, we'll need another sort of holder variable here, t, and t is not mutable. So we're not going to be able to do anything to t. So n is equal to m, n is equal to t, okay? And then the last thing we need to do here is m is equal to m is equal to the remainder of m divided by n, okay? And then finally we are going to return n here. So so at the end, we are going to return n. So let's say we're comparing 2 and 4. Okay, so n is 2, m is 4. So while m is not equal to 0, if m is less than n, so if we had 2 and 4, it wouldn't go into this, so it would just return 2. All right, so now let's do 4 and 2. So 4 and 2. So let's see, this is 2 is less than 4. We get t, we got m, we divide this and take the remainder. The remainder is going to be 2, and so we return 2. So this should work. So let's test it. Let's write tests for it. We don't know it's going to work until we test it. So to test, we do this. Actually, before we test, let's try to compile this thing. To compile, we do cargo run. Okay, so this needs a cargo toml file. So in here, I'm going to do new file, cargo toml, and this is going to be where we define things about our program along with the dependencies that we want for it. So we're going to say this is a package, and the package is going to be intro, and the version is going to be 0.1.0. How about, and the authors of the package are, let's just say Will, and in here we could put dependencies, and these I'm sure could grow to giant lengths. Dependencies. Okay, so let's see if it compiles now. Whoops. If I run to cargo run. Okay, so it says no target specified in the manifest. Either source lib.rs or main must be present. All right, so what we need to do is we need to create a new folder called source. And in that folder, I'm going to put main.rs. And I am going to move this function there so I can test it. I'm not sure that I need to do this, but, and actually that's a question for the audience. Is Rust that smart that it would know where I put tests in once I put the test sort of syntax in there? I'm sure that Rust is smart enough to do that. All right, so main function, adding a main, could not compile intro. Okay, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to compile this. What I actually want to do is run cargo test. So let's see, what does this say? Test result, okay, 0 passed, 0 failed, 0 ignored, 0 measured, 0 filtered out. By the way, I'm not, I guess in the next video, I'll write a basic sort of program, but in this we're just writing a test and we're just writing a function and testing it. So unfortunately we can't compile it with cargo run, but we can use cargo test. So let's see. So this is just giving us a warning, dead code. Okay, so let's add the test finally. Okay, so this is the sort of syntax to say that we are going to test this thing. We're going to test our greatest common denominator function. We don't need to put any parameters in there. We're going to use the assert equal macro that we saw before. I'm going to say the greatest common denominator between 14 and 15 is 1, just because they don't have any others. What we can do in our test is also be kind of clever here, just using what we know about basic algebra to say that the greatest common denominator of a integer, that's going to be 2 plus 5, 2 times 3 times 5 times 11 times 17, and an integer that is, let's say, 3 times 7 times 11 times 19 is going to be 3 times 11, because 3 and 11 are both integers they have in common. So the greatest common one is going to be 33. For whatever these two numbers are, we don't care what they are. So now what we can do is if we run cargo test, we get could not compile intro dot. Oh, expected item found brace. Okay, so apparently this function is wrong. So let's see, greatest common denominator, mutable n, u64, mutable m, 260 yields unsigned, okay, while m is not equal to m. If this all looks good, then return this, otherwise return that. Okay, so this says expected item. Aha, well, I thought Rust would give me a little bit better notification there, but I eventually figured out that it was telling me the right place to look. I needed to put that bang, the hash out front of the test. Okay, so we wrote a test. 1 passed, 0 failed, 0 ignored, 0 measured, 0 filtered out. I don't know what 0 measured or filtered out are. That's kind of interesting. I am interested to find out. So this is our essentially function we wrote. We tested it. We have a test for this function. It works. So let's do that. Add one more test to this, which is 2 and 4. Let's see, 2 and 4, and we expect 2. And actually I'm interested in finding out what happens if I expect 1 here. As I normally do on my tests, I sort of fail. It gives me a nice big red fail sign. Okay, so so let's make that pass. Make them fail, then make them pass. That's it for this video on Rust. If you have been following along, I have some sort of pokers in the fire with Rust in Action and Rustlings. I promise I will get back to those, but I want to make sure that I fully am grounded in the fundamentals before diving into the more advanced concepts, which we've gotten to in those videos. You can check them out though, and subscribe for more Rust. Let me know what you want to see. Take care.